What's up, Squadron? Aviation has given me a ton of amazing experiences.
Good job there. Nice rock, high wing.
But more importantly, it's introduced me to a whole new family of friends.
Like, dude, you're killing it. You're having a great day.
So just never give up.
Airport, and then, oh, by the way, I got carb ice while I was flying too, so the engine started running rough. I had to
Join us tonight as we're cleared direct for some hangar flying. I am Ryan Dembroski, and this is SuperAero Live.
That's a lot. I mean, a lot of cookies.
Is it you?
Everybody calm down in the chat because I am here. I'm adjusting those audio levels. They were way too loud. Guess what, everybody? It's Wednesday, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for another episode of SuperAero Live, which audience member Nathan Ballard realized this may be not only the best live aviation interview show, it's also the only one. So thanks for joining us. How cool is that? So many cool people in the chat. Nathan Ballard is here. Hanger Tales is here. Marty Burian is here. He might get some flight time in tomorrow, he said. Jeffrey Jensen says, Ryan is so late, even the notification beat here. Jeffrey, calm your cylinders. Gary Smith is here. Hashtag Diva Ryan. Fine. Hashtag Diva Ryan. Maybe that's what happened. Outside's here. Playing Ladies here. Zach Sherman. I've been saying parody show, but it's parody, I think. I think it's not. I sounded real white the way I was pronouncing it before. So sorry about that, my friend. Red Baron Modeling. Gonna be a really fun night tonight. The place that our guest is joining us from is actually maybe the closest a guest has ever been geographically, but I stayed in my basement. And I had the most magical day of my aviation life there. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but I want to introduce you first to our guest. Ami Eckard-Lee is here. Look at that. There she is.
Hi.
Hey!
And I'm coming live to you from my work, which is why I'm here. And you can see that we have an airplane.
Yeah, you've got a beautiful biplane behind
about.
you. What kind of biplane is that? I can't see too much of it.
This is our. So I work at a museum. I work at the Kelch Aviation Museum, and this is our U.S. mail plane. It is a Stearman C-3B from 1929, and it is both a display in the museum and it does fly. So we are a very living aviation museum. We have 19 aircraft in the collection, and all of them are in various states of airworthiness. Various states means they don't all fly today, but they're all flying airplanes.
No, I think that makes... I mean, it's a lot of work to keep... I mean, there's like thing about keep them flying, but it's a lot of work to keep vintage aircraft flying. And we're going to talk about it a little bit later. You have like a little video series where you've been showing people how you do that. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But first, two things. One, Nathan, thank you for the super sticker. Red hand pointing up. Whatever that is, I love it. Nate Free, hello as well. And as we talk about this, everybody, if you have questions for Ami, put them in the chat and I will read her the good ones. Oh, but the bad ones I won't.
I want to hear the silly ones.
Silly questions about biplanes. So, I will preface this. My favorite, one of the most epic days of my life in airplane. I mean, obviously, like getting married and watching my kids be born, pretty epic. But in terms of aviation, some of my most epic days of my life, or the most epic day of my life, maybe up there in the top 5 was a day at Brodhead Airport, which is where you guys are based, I believe. And I got to ride in a bunch of biplanes, land on the grass, got some time in a Boeing Stearman Speedmail and a New Standard and a Waco. There is a magical community at Brodhead, and we have a mutual friend, a guy I went to college with, acting school with, And he was like, you have to talk to me because she's helping build this amazing thing at Brodhead, and you guys like airplanes. So that's how we got connected, and I'm wondering, maybe to start, if we could just talk a little bit about, let's talk about Kelch first, and then I want to dig into, like, your training to be a pilot and all this amazing stuff. But let's talk about Kelch first. Like, it's like, it looks brand new. Like, this is just built?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So, like you mentioned, the museum is located on Brodhead Airport, and Brodhead is a tiny little town in rural Wisconsin. I think there's like 3,000 people who live here, and most of them don't know there's even an airport. But due to a bunch of like kind of totally random circumstances, Brodhead Airport, which has been an airport since the 40s, has become this epicenter, landmark place for vintage aviation. And I only became involved recently, but it has been this landmark place for decades. And it's also kind of nice because we're near Oshkosh, so a lot of people do get to come through here on their way up there if they're interested in antique and vintage aircraft. Brodhead Airport is pretty small. It's a privately owned public access airport, and we have 3 runways, and all of them are grass. And that is one of the reasons that Brodhead Airport is so great for vintage aircraft. I don't know how familiar all the viewers are with vintage aircraft. I really wasn't when I came here, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But we have this lovely museum. It's called the Kelch Aviation Museum, and it is named after Alfred and Lois Kelch, who were this amazing couple involved in antique aircraft. And actually, Al was a founding member of the EAA Vintage division. At the time it wasn't called that, so it's always very confusing to me, but he was right there from the beginning, and he loved airplanes. He had this huge, beautiful collection. He flew, and then near the end of his life, he really wanted to create a museum. So when he and his wife passed away, they left a trust, and with the wishes that their collection be turned into a museum. And I never met them. This was back in the early 2000s, and the airplanes stayed here on Brodhead Airport, where they had always been during Al's life. And eventually the board members got together and said, let's make this happen. So over the last 10 years, we've been building momentum. And then in 2019, we're a nonprofit organization, and we've been raising money, and the community has been astounding, and people have been so supportive. And so in 2019, we were able to break ground on a 12,000 square foot hangar, and we're in it. So obviously it succeeded. And then COVID arrived, and things kind of got slow. Can't operate as a museum. It's harder to fundraise. There's so much going on. But luckily, we were able to construct our second building, which is like bathrooms and offices and gathering hall.
All that important
and
stuff.
So that said, this. And it's important not just because you need a bathroom, but because legally you can't operate an open business without, full amenities for the public. So we haven't been able to be open at all as a museum. We're not just reopening post-COVID. We're like opening for the first time. So that's really exciting. And more exciting news, we will be opening in 24 days. Our grand opening is set to be July 23rd, and that whole weekend, just before Oshkosh. So if you are in Wisconsin, or if you're coming to Oshkosh and you'll be in Wisconsin, you should absolutely come down to Brodhead Airport and take a look.
That's amazing. Yes, and I was showing some photos like this, like Brodhead. I actually think you shared a video. This is like the magical stuff that just happens at Brodhead. I think this is Brodhead, yeah? This video here with the...
Yeah, this is Brodhead.
So...
This is runway 27.
Look at that. Like, it's so epic. I probably should have put that in with the audio. Everyone's probably like, where's the audio? The radials! But, man.
Well, it's probably very bad. I don't know what that was shot on. But, yeah, where can you see biplanes flying in formation just like on a random weeknight? Here.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what I mean. Like, the epic day I had was just like Tuesday for everybody else there, right? It was just like, do you want to go for a biplane ride? Well, after you ride in his biplane, you should probably ride in my biplane so you can compare them.
Like you do.
Twist my arm. So, a couple things people are asking in the chat. First of all, Marty brought up we should, for people following along on their sectionals, loading in ForeFlight or Garmin Pilot or whatever, Brodhead is Charlie 37. And it's about 15 nautical miles west of Janesville. So it's kind of like at the bottom of the state of Wisconsin. It's at the bottom of the oven mitt or whatever. I actually did one of my cross countries there. Someone else said that here. Wallbanger says, just flew over Brodhead prepping for my check ride earlier today. Looking forward to hosting you at EAA 22 in a few weeks.
Yay! Oh yes, I'm going to be down at Cottonwood in Rockford, and that's very exciting. This is going to be my first. I'm going to come and make a presentation kind of like this one, but in person, and it's the first in-person one I've done, so that's very exciting.
Oh, yeah, got to get reintegrated back into society after the end of times.
Right.
Oh,
I don't know what to say next. There's so much.
No, I got you, fam. Two things. One, Nathan says, for every like I get, I will shoot off super illegal fireworks the 4th of July. That is false, but still hit the like button, everybody. And then separately, Plain Lady's got a great question, and this is going to be my question. She's wondering, how'd you get into working at an aviation museum? What's the origin story there?
I'm very excited to tell you about this. So
I'm excited to hear it.
It turns into kind of a little biography. So sorry, this is a longish story. But as Ryan, as you mentioned, we have a mutual friend who's an actor, and that is how, not actually that mutual friend, but acting and performing and history is what got me this job. My family, I've grown up in Wisconsin, and when I was about 10, we moved to a farm near here, near Brodhead, and, just a normal childhood. And I became very fascinated with history and performing kind of in the same era that these airplanes are from. So vaudeville in the 20s and 30s and silent movies and like all that energy. I was just so fascinated. So I started performing and acting and singing and doing all this research. And I'm a filmmaker, actually. So I was doing a lot of research and learning and studying and workshops about film history and the preservation of physical items like film and books and paper, and how important it is to keep that stuff alive in a way to preserve history. And around that time, my family had a longtime family friend, and I hope that you're listening, Jake. Jake and my family go way back, and he is a pilot, and so are both of his parents. And when he heard that we'd moved to Brodhead, he was like, "You guys, you have to go to the Brodhead Airport. It's like super special." And we were like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, really." And I was like, "Okay." And he used to fly his Citabria down to our farm and land in the backyard. And, that was my first introduction to aviation other than commercial flights. And my brother started coming to Brodhead Airport to our chapter, our chapter 431 EA chapter, and being involved. And one day he came home and said, and let's see, this must have been like 2017. He came home and said, "Wow, you'd be so fascinated because there's like this museum and they just received this donation of all these magazines from the 1920s, which is your favorite time in history for artwork and stuff." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I want to see those." And I bet that people there, being that, how old was I? Like 18. I bet people there don't know how to take care of them. So I think I should just go look. So I came to the Brodhead Airport and I came to the museum, which at the time was a house. We purchased land that is right on the airport. The line is right there. You can't tell where our land ends and the runway begins. It's all grass. But at the time, it was a house that had been here previously, on the airport house with a hangar. And so I just walked up the stairs to the house, and Pat Whedon, who's the executive director at the museum, he was there, and he said, "Yeah, here's the bin of magazines. Do you want to volunteer and catalog them into our system?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I do." So I would come in and sit down, and there'd be these beautiful, really well-preserved magazines from like 1913, 1918, 1925, on beautiful art, and all the colors were still there. I was fascinated. And, I had a lot of free time, and I started volunteering more, and it became pretty clear pretty quickly that we needed more than just a cataloging system for a library, because we had these other things, these objects that needed to be cataloged. We needed a whole archive. And that just slowly turned into me working a lot. And one day Pat said, "Hey, I think that this is a job and we should pay you." And I said, "Okay." And I
Nice.
was the museum's second employee. So we really kind of started from the ground up. And then you can't help when being completely immersed in this world of airplanes and pilots who are like barnstormers, like real life barnstormers right here. You can't help but like soak up not just information and facts and skills, but also like this huge love of aviation. I think I'm so lucky because this is so rare, but to me, all these biplanes and stuff is very normal. And I'm not an airplane person, so I would be like, people like, don't ask me questions. I know I'm involved with the museum, but I don't know a lot about airplanes. But I've been here 3 years, and it has changed because, you soak it in. And so, in case anybody's asking, I do fly. I do not have my license. As of Sunday, I feel like I can say that I'm a pilot, but
I'm gonna show. I'm gonna show that you sent. There were some pictures you posted. Just recently. I guess I'm showing biplanes right now, but I'm going to show that. I'll wait till the biplanes pass by first, and then I'll show this cool picture. So, I mean, it's interesting, right? You've got, like, you were talking a little bit about archiving and like passion for filmmaking and the acting you like to do. What's cool to me separately is how you're also, like, in your role at the museum, like, you're combining all of those things, like. You have this wonderful YouTube series where you're showing how you restore the aircraft. You were like varnishing wing ribs and rigging a biplane in one. That taps into your theater side. You've got your love of archival stuff. Let me find this picture of you here. There you're like filling the gas or something there. It's like kind of a unique airplane. Like, what? Tell us about this.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I like to call it the Dr. Seuss airplane. It is a 1931 Curtiss Jr., which is a pusher plane. So you can't really see my feet in that picture, but I'm standing in the front cockpit, and the propeller is behind the gas tank. And that is the plane that I'm learning to fly in. So it feels like a canoe with wings. The pilot sits in the front cockpit, oddly enough, and it is of all the planes I have ever ridden in, modern or vintage or anything in between, it has the most incredible visibility of any plane. I mean, it feels when you're in the front cockpit like you are in a canoe. There's no wing, there's nothing. It's so small around you. I mean, you can see in the picture, it's quite teensy. And I think not very many people these days learn to fly in a plane like this, and it has some extreme challenges, but I love it. And part of that is because I'm a history nerd. There's no radio. So I get to bypass speaking on the radio, which makes me very nervous anyway. So I love that. But there's also no way of communicating with my instructor who sits in the back seat. And actually, I brought this out so I can show you guys. How many of you, say in the chat, how many of you have heard of a Gosport tube? Because
I had never heard of one before you mentioned it on Facebook, so...
Okay, so a Gosport tube was invented in World War I in England. I think there's a town called Gosport, or a base. And basically, it was a way to talk to student pilots and tell them what to do, instead of communicating with hand signals or coming up with the whole flight plan on the ground and then going up and coming down. And because it's not electrified, it is literally just a helmet, a flight helmet. Here's a leather one. And then they're these huge, they look like ear muffs, but they're actually connected to a tube, which then goes to like an ear trumpet, and the instructor yells in this side, and it goes straight into my ears. And this is what I've been using to learn to fly. At first I was really freaked out, but it works quite well. And, I at first I thought, how am I ever going to learn anything because I can't ask questions? But it simplifies things a lot, and I can still like wave my arms. So that's an adventure.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Cool.
What are we doing? Help!
No, this is so cool. So here's we've got some people in the chat who are responding to your question if they've heard of that before. Nathan Ballard says that's pretty awesome. Hanger Tales says yes. Now I gotta tell you, Hanger Tales, that guy's got some stories. I should have him on the show. He says I used it in both the Stearman and the AT6.
Okay, I want to learn more about that.
Throw some more down in there, Tom. Red Baron Modeling, since he's heard of him too. And then Jeffrey Jensen says the Gosport tube is perfect for a Dr. Seuss plane. It matches.
Oh, yeah, it does. That's
totally
the best
matches,
thing I've
right?
heard all day. It does. It's all really quite, and it suits my really goofy nature. And like you were saying, up until even recently, I did not realize how much of a dream job this has been because, like you say, it has involved so much of what I love, and it's been so creative. You know, to build a museum is a whole bunch of different things tied together, regardless of what the actual subject of the museum is supposed to be.
Sure.
And when I arrived, like I said, I wasn't an airplane person, very interested in history. I am the second oldest of 5 kids, and I love kids, and I love people and stories. So I thought immediately, oh my gosh, there's so many incredible stories in the history of aviation. In each one of these planes has an incredible history that we, for most of the planes, know almost the entire story of when they were built, 80 or more years ago. So I got really excited about that and presenting stories and, making it less of a hangar full of airplanes or, something that was quiet and still that you walked through and more of like walking into a movie, it's that cool. So why not embrace that part of it? And so, yeah, I love hosting our video series, which we started when COVID started to kind of give people tours of each airplane. And, I wish I could tell you all the stories, like even just this airplane here, which has an incredible history, but you can also just watch my videos, and I probably am better then because it's edited, so I don't say
I don't even know. I've been saying a lot tonight. I've been saying so you're right. We can also like
do
me the first time I was on the radio teaching Now I've got a case of the ums. They're going to be ruthless to me in the chat.
Oh, good.
I saw something funny pop up. Marty says, "Oh wait, one-way comms with students. I may have to look into using this in more modern trainers."
Yeah, at first I was a little bit mad about that, but it works really well because I don't have to think about anything. And often I found, and I talk a lot. Often I have found that the questions I have solidify more or work themselves out. And then, I understand what's going on more if I don't immediately ask a question about it.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Absolutely makes sense.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Hanger Tales says, having someone blow into your ear takes a whole new meaning. I guess.
Yes, it does. But, you do what you have to do you
gotta learn.
In 1931.
Jonathan, thank you so much for the super sticker, Jonathan. That was super epic of you. Jonathan, always a big supporter of the show. Really appreciate that. So wait, where are you in the training, Ami? Where, so you said just recently you started to feel like a pilot, but where, is this a thing you're gonna take all the way to certificate, or?
I don't know yet. So I have about 10 hours, that's all, and I have not soloed. And part of it is because my instructor lives in Iowa, and I get lessons about intensively for a week or a weekend, about, once every season. And I fly a lot here, but I'm not getting dual. And I'd like to get my license, but it is not a priority. And like I mentioned, on Sunday I had a flight, and I feel like I finally nailed lots of parts of it. I took off and I flew, and I felt like I knew what I was doing, and had a landing and it was okay. And that's a great feeling, you know, and I never thought that I would care that much. You know, I'm not a mechanical person and I'm not a machines person, but I guess there is something so whimsical and magical about flight in general. And then you have an airplane like this and it just kind of, it's the extreme whimsical and magical part of that. And at the museum, you know, that's like my personal aviation interest, and I think that will go on in many ways, regardless of whether or not I get any licensing. But all the people who I work with at the museum are pilots, which is super cool. Lots of cool stories, lots of skills. You know, we're talking tail dragger pilots with thousands of hours, thousands and thousands. And so you learn a lot just by being around them. But the interesting thing about being in a museum in that respect is that the pilots take such amazing care of the planes, which is why so many of them still fly. You know, and we have so much expertise. Any question I would have, somebody has an answer that is not even in the book, and that has been amazing. But there wasn't a lot of concrete planning about, okay, now that we have a museum, you know, how is it going to be presented? How are we going to interface with kids? And how are we going to make aviation really exciting? So I've been so lucky to be able to be part of the team and be given so much leeway to creatively tell the story of each airplane while knowing that the experts are going to make it such an incredible aviation place. You know, I don't have to worry about that part as much.
And I would encourage folks to go back and two things I'd encourage people to do. Everyone in the chat right now is like, wow, what a cool guest. Like, what a cool, unexpected guest on the show. And so if you agree with that sentiment, everyone go share the video right now while you're listening, or watching, go share it, because that helps us get the message out about Kelch and Ami, but also, selfishly, me. Then I was trying to make a joke, but it just sounded narcissistic. But then the other thing I would invite everybody to do is to go check out Ami's videos on I've linked it in the description below. Really fascinating stuff where, I mean, you're like really working on the planes, right? Like there's a video where you and one of your colleagues like perfectly rig, you know, maybe you want to explain that to folks. Like, we were talking about wing rigging, and I don't know if people, even some pilots, know what wing rigging actually is in like an old biplane. Like you're like measuring and like anyway, I don't want to spoil it, but it was
the hardest part
fascinating
about wing rigging is saying wing rigging. I think I still am probably saying ring wigging, which is a problem. In theater school, did you do a lot of those tongue twister warm ups? Yeah, and I clearly those skills didn't stick.
The one for me was that always was like, I slid a sheet I slit, and on that slitted sheet I sit. That one.
I'm not even going to try. I didn't know that one, and it's a good thing I didn't.
So wing rigging could be the next one. It could be wing rigging. Oh, that's hard.
Wing rigging.
Wing rigging.
Yeah,
wing
even
rigging,
if you say
wing
it
rigging,
slow,
wing
you
rigging.
start to worry.
It's hard. Wing rigging.
And that made the video really interesting, you know. You're getting it.
Sorry. Yeah, this is great. Sorry, so let's talk about wing rigging.
Wing rigging. Yes. So I have a video series, and at first it was tours. This is this airplane, and this is what it did in history, and this is why it's cool. And you know, then we have 19 airplanes, but that's gonna get kind of old, especially if we don't know the full story. And I've slowly been picking up some really cool skills from the experts who are on our board or volunteers, and wing rigging.
Oh, we did it. Wing rigging.
And so I didn't know this either, and I look like an expert in the video, but I'm not. So you have a biplane like this one.
Wait, who is that behind you?
Oh, I have to tell you about this. Okay, we're going to pause on wing rigging for a minute, and I'm going to introduce you to Wild Bill Hobson, who's a colleague of mine. This, as you can see, is our mail plane, and I'll give a little history. There's a video about it if anybody wants to learn more about that, but It's from the 20s. It flew the mail. Pretty cool plane. It was actually the first airplane that Delta Airlines ever owned, like Delta Airlines that you can buy a plane ticket for now. And it became I believe it was a crop duster for some time. I might be getting confused on that. Please don't.
Wait, can
quote
I
me.
clarify?
Anyway,
was this specific aircraft was the first one ever purchased by
Yes.
Delta?
This model sitting right here, N number 6496, which is
What?
of course how we tracked it down and know that. Yeah, it was the first, and we have photographs of it way back then and what it did, and we have the route that it flew, sort of east of Wisconsin. And anyway, so we're putting together a display about mail planes because airmail in America, in the history of the United States, is an incredible story, and I'm all about stories. And that's where Wild Bill comes in. He was an airmail pilot in the 20s, and he kind of personifies so much that I love about early aviation, but also the people and the mood and the energy that really kind of launched aviation into the modern world. Something that is important to us at the museum is not just the history, but like the overwhelming amount of technological advancements and developments in aviation that really are still affecting the world today, you know, and this was barely 100 years ago, which is so cool. But like in 1918, so barely 100 years ago, the United States airmail system and service was launched. And, you know, before that, your mail had to travel by a train to get from New York to San Francisco. And within a few years, it was going overnight, which is just, I mean, it's hard to fathom, but that is like the Amazon Prime of 1920. And I don't even know if
that is the most
understand
succinct
that.
way anyone's ever explained that, by the way. That
Oh,
like the idea of like this is the Amazon, like I don't think for my kids, right? They're always gonna think Amazon Prime is just how it is. The fact that I could like order batteries this morning and they arrive at my house today or whatever is like it's kind of dumb. It also feels a little wasteful. But like
it does.
We talk a lot on this show about these moments in actually I was just in Louisiana for a stole competition, announcing a stole competition, and we had the bathtub, the
The Aranca C3?
yes, the Aranca. There was an Aranca
Flying
C3.
bathtub!
Thank you for the assist on that. So there was an Aranca C3 competing in the competition, which is hilarious because it doesn't have brakes.
I love it.
And,
I love
and we
it.
were talking about how in like 10 years, right, from like when that plane was built, like mid, I think 1930s, to 10 years later, mid 1940s, we went from the Aranca C3 bathtub, literally a flying bathtub, to like P-51s. Like then that's a huge techno. Yeah, so you're talking about what I think people don't realize is what you're talking about is trains to the thing behind you is the same jump. Like aviation does this all anyway. Sorry.
No,
you got me excited.
No, I love that. And I want to move forward on that topic too, because like, and it's not just for aviation, like without airmail and how that changed communication and our expectations about communication and linking the worlds together, like so many other parts of our world would not be the way they are. And yeah, this plane is 1929, and like 20 years later, I mean, everything has changed. And airmail actually drove a lot of those changes because, and I don't have to go into super detailed history, but it's amazing. And if you're fascinated, come and see our exhibit because it's not done, but it will cover all of this. Airmail, they really put the pressure on airmail pilots to deliver rain or shine, night and day, and it made it an extremely dangerous job. And you know, it's a good thing in retrospect that we put that much pressure on the airmail service because it may have been discarded by the government if we hadn't done that, which is amazing and weird to think. But a lot of pilots died because there were so many crashes. I believe in 1918, they initially hired 40 pilots, and 2 years later, half of them were dead. And I mean, that's just staggering and horrible. And they did very quickly, under 10 years, develop so many new technologies and precautions that they had no fatalities annually. and that includes things like beacon towers and radio forecasting of the weather, because that didn't exist. So you're just flying blind into whatever weather is in Chicago, and all kinds of instruments. And then, of course, developments in the airplanes, some of which I don't think we really use. Like, for example, we don't have a plane like this, but there was an airmail plane that had a cockpit, the pilot's cockpit in the back, and it had like a crank. And basically, you would crank and you would rise up so that when you were taking off and landing, you had better visibility. And then you'd crank yourself down so that if you had a crash, you were more protected. I think that's so cool. We don't use that in modern airplanes, I'm pretty sure, though.
That's, I mean, maybe we should. Maybe we should do it. No, right. I mean, that's super interesting. No, keep going.
I didn't tell you about Wild Bill.
No, who is that strange person behind you? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this is Wild Bill, and he's life-sized, and we love him. And he was an airmail pilot, and he astonishing, interesting person, and totally the like typical but amazing airmail pilot, super brave. And like in 1927, he had 26 forced landings. I mean, he was fine, but that was normal. And unfortunately, he died flying the mail in the late 20s. I think it was 29, somewhere over New York. And fun fact, he was carrying about $100,000 worth of diamonds and jewelry with him. I don't know why anyone would mail that, but they were. And he crashed with it. And most of it got recovered. But I mean, you could still go out into the mountains over there and see if you could find any.
Let's go find some diamonds so I can buy a diamond airplane.
Yeah.
That's so amazing.
You can see I get really carried away about the stories, and it's just so cool to me. Nerd alert.
No, do not apologize for that, because I'm getting multiple things in the chat. James says, make sure you bring Ami back. Super great episode. Nathan's saying that maybe we've found our new co-host.
What?
Maybe we should
I don't have a beard, I can't.
Well, maybe, how about I shave mine and do pigtails, and then we'll be the same.
Oh, good. Yeah, let's do it. Thank you.
That's so nice, guys. Yeah, this is super. I mean, this is super cool to get this kind of detail. We don't talk about vintage aviation enough on the show. Mostly all it is me saying, like, did you know I flew a J3 Cub? And everyone's like, shut up, Ryan.
That's so old. That's not even an old airplane, Ryan. Sorry.
No, not compared to what you've got there. None of it. That's like modern compared to what you have there.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Cub, because in the Al Kelch collection is what is called the prototype Cub. We own it. It is not in this room, so I cannot show you, but it is in our collection, and if you visit us, you can see the very first one.
That's amazing. I gotta come down. And see all
Please
this.
Do.
Some other good thing. Parrish. Where are you, Parrish? That was a comment. Oh, it's hard to scroll and think at the same time. Clayton says that the airmail pilot Wild Bill, he was flying the original Bitcoin. That's pretty funny.
Yes. Amazon Prime, Bitcoin, it was all there. This was also like the internet, of the 20s.
It basically was the internet, right? I can't find the comment right now, so I'm not making. This is not good television. But someone was asking if you had been working on. I'm guessing they mentioned Bernard's. I'm guessing Pete and Pole stuff.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm
gonna keep scrolling for it. But tell us about Pete and Pole stuff. Okay,
so I'm gonna tell you about Pete and Poles. The Pete and Pole is the original, very first home-built airplane. Not sure how many of you are involved with that, but Mr. Bernard H. Pete and Pole, who is from Minnesota, designed the plane in the late 20s, and in 1929 published the plans in, I believe, Popular Mechanics. And it's just a very simple, small airplane, and I can actually walk you over to our display in a moment and show you. And the really cool thing about it, I mean, there are a ton of really cool things about the design, but one of the most amazing ones is that the engine is a Model A engine, a Model A Ford engine from an automobile. And he did this because he wanted it to be an airplane anybody could build in their garage. It's totally wooden, so you don't need any welding skills and stuff like that. You could conceivably just build yourself an airplane, get an automobile engine off an old car, and just go flying. And a lot of people in the 20s did, I guess the 30s, because it was 29. A lot of people did that, and it kind of revolutionized a lot of aviation, because then it was the Great Depression. When we're talking about biplanes that were this big, huge, expensive, I mean, they cost so much even in the day, and then now we have this plane you could build in your garage. Well, now they cost a lot too.
Well, no, but even just put in perspective, the thing that struck me when I was flying. Sorry, I have a surprise. You mentioned Pete and Poles, and I got out my flying and glider manual, which has the plans for the Pete and Pole inside. I'm trying to find it.
Yes.
But
you are a nerd.
I am a super big nerd. But the thing about the biplanes, like even a Waco, even the Boeing Stearman Speedmill, I got to ride in and fly a little bit. Just huge. Immense airplane.
Huge.
So I just wanted to back you up on that. Anyway, keep going.
Okay, so actually, now Ryan, tell me and people in the chat, tell me if the internet goes weird, because I'm going to walk away from the modem. I think it'll be fine. But give you like perspective. This airplane is absolutely huge, and then I'm going to walk you over to the Pete and Pole, and it's tiny. So not only was it far easier to build, but it was easier to store and all this stuff, and people kept building them. So the Pete and Pole airplane, there are two versions, the Air Camper and the Sky Scout. One is a single place and one is a two-place plane. They became popular and remained popular, and so people still build them today, and we have one. And Brodhead Airport is the home of the Pete and Pole Association, and we have a fly-in each year. I'm not sure how well you can see that. This is our Pete.
Oh, it looks great.
It does not have a prop right now. And this is, I have a video. It's so beautiful. This one was actually built by Mr. Pete and Pole himself in the mid-30s, and it has a super cool history as well. And I can't go into all of it now, but I have a video about it if you want to learn more about it. And because Brodhead is the home of the Pete and Pole Association, we have a fly-in each year. It's the weekend before Oshkosh every year, before AirVenture. And so a lot of people fly up here and then go on there. And I would absolutely encourage you guys to come and do that. It's incredible to be here on the Brodhead Airport and have, if the weather's nice, hundreds of these home-built planes, which all look different because everybody does them a little differently, and they have different kinds of engines. All of them here, all of them flying. And because we have that connection to him, and he, a lot of old-timers on the airport here knew him, and we have so much of his stuff, and his granddaughter has donated some of his stuff. We built this, and I don't know how well you can see this. So we built a workshop.
This is what Mark was. So it's Mark Parrish in the chat, and he wanted us to say hi to you, and he asked you if you had finished that workshop. That looks amazing.
Well, yes. So actually, this workshop I love it. It's so cool. It's this wooden place, and it has all these things that are Pete and Pole related, or actually belonged to Mr. Pete and Pole, or would have been in a shop like this. And my coworker Hannah is in charge of this brilliant thing, and she is the most wonderful curator. She actually was just volunteering with us, just like I did, for a high school senior project, and she was so great. We hired her, and she has single-handedly curated a whole display. And for Pete and Pole nerds out there, I don't know if anybody's a super fan, but we have some major secret stuff that nobody knew existed about. We have a lot of his private correspondence, and some fascinating stuff has come out. So Hannah's putting together a display about that, and if you want to know about it, you're going to have to come and see it. It's amazing. And she's not here right now tonight, but I mean, just her display is amazing, and I love. It's like walking into a movie, just like I always wanted. You can walk right into the studio, see his stuff. It's all right there.
And some folks in the chat are talking about how the Pete and Pole fly-in is the same weekend as the Aviation Content Creator Awards, and I would say ditch the ACCAs, go to the Pete and Pole thing. because Brodhead is magic. Never mind all the stuff that Ami is doing. Like, you should go. It's totally worth it. You can always, like, Pete and Pole's. It's like I don't know. I say that having never been to either, but you should do the Pete and Pole thing. So that's super cool. That's super amazing. I was looking for more. It's funny. I mentioned that the flying and glider manual, but then I showed the one that didn't have the Pete and Pole plans in it. I can't find the one. But what you can do if you want to be like super hardcore is you go to EAA and you order like 6 of those flying and glider manuals, and then you like piece the plans together out of like articles that they've written back.
Oh yeah.
I think you can actually just buy plans now.
You can just buy plans now. We actually we have plans on site, and that's another thing I wanted to talk about. We have a pretty extensive archive, and I've moved on to working with airplanes and working with curation, obviously, but still working a lot with this amazing collection of historic magazines and books and photographs and negatives. We are the physical home of the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame's negative collection, and it is enormous and amazing. And one of the things we have in our collection are a lot of really rare airplane plans, and a long-term goal, which will not be set up this summer, but will be running by the fall, is we want to be a research library. People can come in, and if they're looking for specific information or plans that are very rare, if we have them, you can just come and take a look and get what you need. You showed your gliding manual, and I wanted to show you this thing that arrived in the mail today, and it is a flying manual, the Pilot and Builder's Handbook from 1933. It's an original copy, and it has...
That's amazing.
all the stuff about Pete and Pole. This is when his Sky Scout came out, the single place plane, and he's writing about it. The plans are all in here, and like you can still buy this on eBay. So it's very much still alive, you guys.
That's so awesome. I like the flex. I was like, I have this reprint, and you're like, I have the OG.
Sorry.
No, you're a museum. You should have
the OG.
You should have the OG stuff.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I want to apologize to someone in the chat. Just Plain Silly is here, and I was saying don't go to the ACCAs. I was saying don't do that, but you should go. You should maybe stop there on your way to Brodhead because he is emceeing the ACCAs this year.
Oh.
So I feel bad. He's like, I don't know. Where are the guys? Put him in it. I don't know. It's sort of like on the way, depending on where you're coming from. I'm doing a great job.
Course.
Yeah.
We're on the way if you're coming from some places also.
Well, you are. You guys are on the way.
Oshkosh.
Because if you're coming, like, it's like you're kind of like going up, like you got to go. Like if you're coming from the coast, you kind of got to go up around the lakes, and then you can. I don't know. I'm pantomiming poorly. But you're like on the way.
Yeah, if this is Wisconsin, Oshkosh is in the middle, and we're right down here at the bottom. So we're about, let's see, it takes me about a little more than 2 hours to drive up there. So, and you can camp here. People camp under the wings of their planes, just like at Oshkosh.
That's awesome. I need to come down.
I'm very biased, you guys. I'd like you to come here.
I would love to come. I want to come down and hang out with you for a day and like learn. I just want to soak. I want to soak it all up.
Bring your kids. We have things for kids here too.
Okay, talk about that. Because I would never bring my kids there because they'd break something.
Well, yes. Well, I have to say a disclaimer, which is our board members would probably agree with you. But why not have kids here? And it's so exciting. And the secret. Well, what I think of as the secret to keep kids from breaking things and touching things that they're not supposed to is give them something to break and touch first that they are supposed to. And so that's been exciting. We've had 2 open house events ever in this new building, and a lot of kids come and they're really excited. We have a fire truck from the 20s, and they can push the siren and ring the bell. And we have, on special days, it's not like a free-for-all. Sorry, you guys. Adults can do it too. And we have some events specifically for kids. We're fingers crossed, we're in the process of teaming up with doing some like scout programs with the Girl Scouts, and we have airplanes and like paper airplanes, and we have a lot of, in each exhibit I'm trying to get things that kids can touch and feel, like the airmail thing. I made these airmail bags, which you may see behind me. And so, kids can put some mail in or take some mail out and stuff like that. My dream is to have, guys, if you can help me with this, please do. My dream has been to have a fuselage that is covered in metal but not covered in any cloth, even though it should be, so that nobody can break it, that is like lower down on the ground that kids can climb into, because of course that's what everyone wants to do. That's what I want to do. And it's in the works. We have a fuselage for it, but covering it and painting it and getting it all set up and making the alterations so that it is pretty safe is very time consuming. And so haven't finished that yet. But if any of you have a project that is more covered than my completely bare fuselage over here, we accept donations.
I love it. And separately, I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and you gave some amazing parenting advice just then.
Oh,
just
well, I don't
like,
have kids, so.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you decide to do that someday, that you're going to be great at it, because it's like, I had never thought of maybe just give them a thing they can break first.
If they break it, isn't this fun? This is how this works. I love that, but I'm also a nanny, so I have to find
so you've got
reasons
some
to make
experience.
life work.
It's not your first rodeo.
Well, maybe it is. Just don't tell anybody. I'm pretending. Fake it till you make it, Ryan.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're almost out of time, which I cannot believe.
Okay.
This has been so much fun.
Whoa.
But I'm wondering if there's. I mean, I barely showed any of these photos you sent over.
Slideshow time. Do you want me to narrate what these are? That is me. That photograph there where I'm laughing is me riding in a PT-19 that's owned by a friend of mine who flies very near here off a strip on his farm. How cool is that? And he flies over here. He just flew over tonight to get gas at the airport, and he took me up, and you can see how fun it is. It's amazing. I couldn't stop laughing. And that is my very favorite airplane. We do not have it in the collection. It was on a long-term loan to us, and it has since been taken from the museum. But that is a Fairchild 22 from 1932. It is my all-time favorite airplane. I don't have a reason. I mean, this particular model is so beautiful, and I don't know, the orange and blue, and it flies so wonderfully. And I got to fly it some, and it's just beautiful. You can see the I guess the wheel pants. Is that what they're called, or is it wheel covers?
Yeah, wheel pants. Yeah.
Just like that little detail alone. I guess I'm a visual person. I love that airplane so much.
No, I mean one of my favorite. I feel like we've only known each other besides Facebook Messenger and Qasim's intro for like an hour, but I feel like we're basically best friends. I mean, I think that like half the reason that aviation is so I mean, obviously the people and the flying is great, but the way the aesthetics work when they work, especially vintage, like why are Cessnas white? They should all have birds on them and it's so lame. We got to get cool looking airplanes again. Anyway, I digress. Yeah,
with hand lettering. And I guess I want to show you this. I know we're almost out of time, but this airplane has this beautiful logo. Oh my God, which way am I going? And that just shows a nighttime airmail beacon, and it's just hand painted on there. So a lot of these planes have individual details just hand painted on them that I think are super cool. The aesthetic is nice. I want to make a movie about airplanes, but I haven't had time yet. Well,
let's separately talk about that, because I do own a production company, so we'll talk about that. But so yeah, no, we're best friends now, you and me. Okay, so did we show? Oh, nope. That was a comment from SoCal. There you go. This is like you just at work.
That's me at work. That is in the midst of me filming one of our video tours, which you guys are such a nice audience, and I feel very special, and perhaps this is an illusion, but I would love to encourage you to go watch the videos. I love making them. I'm silly, but also there's some really cool facts in there, which I can't remember anymore.
No, that's okay. Jonathan says in the chat, he says, I love this. She makes me want to go fly right now. Nathan Ballard, who is quite critical of the show, often says, for real, one of the best shows ever.
Oh my god!
So we haven't even scratched the surface, and we're out of time. So here's what we're gonna do, though. I mean, I think what we're gonna do is we're going to maybe have you come back, because I think what was really fascinating is like the individual stories you were telling. I want to like deep dive with you on some of these things. Like, I don't know. Let me know what you think in the chat, folks. We could maybe we could do a little thing. You could come back and we could talk more about the collection, or now that I've got my shots, I could fly down and we could like make a proper video together sometime. That would be cool.
That would be amazing. We would love that. And also, I'm still making virtual video tours. They're kind of on hold right now, but we are always asking our audiences, tell us what you want to see. So if you would like to see, even if we can't do an episode or something, if any one of you wants to learn more about a particular airplane or thing, please let me know, because we'd love to make a video about that.
No, I mean, like the stuff, what's cool about the content you're making, the things that I got excited about, like when I first looked at everything that you were making, is like we were joking about being nerds, but you're going deep into the nerd. Like there's a video. One of my favorite videos is just like, I'm gonna varnish these wing ribs, and here's all the crap that goes into that. And I was like, like that was so cool, because it's just like you guys are. I think separately, like the other thing is like you're really doing it. Like the museum,
that is so special and important to me, because when I was growing up, especially as 15-16-year-old, and I was so obsessed with the 1920s and music then, and I play that music, and I wanted to travel back in time, and I wanted to make silent films, and I didn't go to college because I was like, there's no college that offers a degree in making silent movies like you're Buster Keaton. And then I stumbled into this job, and I am suddenly kind of living the life that I want, only we also still have Xanax and civil rights, so it's ideal. So living the life is magical. I also, a side note, I still do perform, and I have a 1920s vaudeville trio with two of my siblings, and we sing harmony, and we perform with jazz, and we dance. So I really am able to live life. My life is a dream. I'm very lucky. Come visit.
That is so cool. All right, I'm going to power through these photos really quick, because I feel like we might have left something cool on the floor. Okay. We talked about that one. I love that. We talked about your training. Super cool. Did we cover everything?
I think maybe we covered
there's got to be
something.
There, what is that? Look at
that is our poster child airplane, or one of them. That is our Curtiss Wright 12W from 1932, and it is the plane we fly the most, as you can see. And that is classic. You fly low and slow over beautiful Midwest countryside, flown by one of our wonderful board member pilots. And I think I have to change the battery on that. That's our only plane with an electric starter. All the rest have to be hand propped.
What you mentioned about flying in that area, that was one of the most magical things for me. I think one of the pilots had a new standard, and we were flying in it, and he was like, hey, let's go check that. We were all, there's no intercom or anything, so we were all just wearing hearing protection, and he tapped me on the shoulder, because we didn't have the cool tube thing, and he was like, we're going to go check that out. And we went down to the river, and what was amazing with these vintage aircraft, with biplanes, things like that, you can feel it, right? So it's the temperature changed because we got over the water, and then it got cold, we were out of the sun a little bit because the trees were blocking, and you can kind of smell the river, and then there was a combine off in the distance, and you could smell the manure and the corn and the what. It's that's part of it, the real visceral thing, and all of that is tied up. I don't know if I'm being too passionate about where you guys are or what you guys are doing, but all of that visceral experience is really in it. So when I look at a picture like this, that's it. And also, again, more airplanes should be painted blue. Our brand design we rebranded recently is all based around those beautiful colors, blues and these wonderful yellows and oranges, it's perfect. And there's the Curtiss again, same photo shoot. I think
flying over the Midwest is really special, you know, especially when you get to go slow and you, like you said, like smell it and feel it and the air. I think my first biplane ride, open cockpit biplane ride, was also in the New Standard that I think you wrote in. And it's just like, you never will ever think about flying the same way again.
We've had a couple barnstormers. We've had a Dewey Davenport as a barnstormer we had on the show, and he talked about that. I think he visits you guys every once in a while at Brodhead. And then we had some Pete and Pole pilots on. Tango and Juliet were on.
Oh, good.
They were talking about all their adventures in that. So I think, like, the passion is alive for all of that still. I think we think a lot about, you know, when Sharon from Diamond Aircraft was here talking about, like, the DA-62 with, like, it's like fire-breathing, you know, diesel engines. I think everyone gets very excited about that. But I think this stuff is worth, if you're new to vintage or anything like that in the chat, or you're watching this or listening to this later, like, this is a part of aviation you should check out, just because there's so much. I mean, the story you were telling about the airmail pilots, right? It's like, it's just so much so much of what we do now. That road was paved. I don't know.
Yes.
I'm just excited about it.
Yes.
Look at that, and
well,
look at that.
That's a sight at Brodhead very often. I know I'm just like saying it's a great place, but and that is our Stearman. That is our other Stearman C3B from 1929. We have two. It's gorgeous. It's fully restored. It's a fascinating story because it had a long life, and before we owned it, it was many things, including a crop duster. Imagine crop dusting in that. It sounds horrible. It is horrible. One of the reasons it's horrible is it's dangerous, and that airplane was involved in a forced landing that was quite tragic, which is an elaborate and exciting story that you can learn about in the video. But that plane is sitting right over here, and it is our poster child. It's in our logo, and it's beautiful. It also still flies. It hasn't flown yet this year. It is a monster airplane. It is just huge.
That's amazing. That is super amazing. I'm sure we're gonna play a game in a second before we wrap up for the night.
Yeah.
People are asking for it. They want to play short final, but I want to just I want to dig through some questions here, make sure we didn't miss anything. Maybe we got them all. Everyone's so beautiful planes, beautiful planes.
Has questions? We have a really active Facebook page and a really active website, and we love to hear from you guys. And we're a living museum, and the thing missing from the museum is the people. And I can't wait to have people come in here. And even if you can't physically come here, it doesn't matter. Come and be involved, and we're always excited to hear from you and hear your ideas, and it's fun. All
right, let's play a game. Ready to play a game?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, game's called Short Final. Short Final, for those of you who are new to the channel, or maybe she's getting ready to go. Just minute on the clock. We're gonna bang out a bunch of short answer questions, and there are no wrong answers, so you've already won all the points.
Okay, and is it one word answers only?
Oh no, you can answer as many words as you want, but the quicker you answer, the more questions I can ask you.
Okay. I think I'm ready. I hope.
Okay. What's funny is I don't know if I have any good questions for you, so we'll see what happens.
Okay.
All right.
Oh no.
You're like, oh, that sounds horrible.
Well, I can ask you questions.
Oh, that would be fun. All right. I'm me, Eckard-Lee, from the Kelch Aviation Museum. It's time for Short Final. First of all, favorite airport you've ever landed at?
Probably Brodhead Airport.
Favorite aircraft in the collection?
Barcelona.
Barcelona? What? Okay. Favorite aircraft in the collection?
Currently, I like them all, and the Fairchild 22 isn't in the collection anymore, so I guess that would have to be the Pete and Pole.
The Pete and Pole. All right, cool. What about, we talked about paint colors in airplanes. What's your favorite aircraft paint color?
Red.
Me too. Nice. See, we're best friends forever. Okay. What's the most unexpected thing you've learned about aviation since you've started volunteering and now working at the museum?
Oh, no.
That's not a quick answer
Oh my
question. I
God.
totally sabotaged
No, it's
you.
not. I mean, I guess it's like you don't have to be mechanically minded, or it's I know what it is, and we've run out of time, but it is the whole idea while you're flying that like once at first you're controlling speed with the throttle, and then later you're actually controlling speed with the stick. That still blows my mind.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was very confusing to me when I learned it as well.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up for the everyone's saying that I was not fair to you. One of the questions I ask a lot. One of the questions I ask a lot is north up or track up, which is a GPS question. So we can't
Which
ask
I wouldn't
that
do.
because you don't have
you
don't have GPSs in there.
No, I still fly with a yaw string.
That's cool. That's super cool.
Don't.
People are saying reverse short final. Anyway, okay. Before we wrap up for the night, go ahead. What are you gonna say?
I was gonna say, short final makes me think of how short all the finals in the junior where I'm learning right now are, and they are so short that finally my instructor was like, "Yeah, this sync rate is so bad that we're gonna land with power still on, and it will kind of feel like maybe a light aircraft." And I was like, "Oh, is this how everybody else gets to do it? Oh, that's a lot of time."
I love that you're learning to fly in that because that is just so just so unique. And then I hope you do it. You were talking earlier about you're not sure how far you're going to take it. I hope that you take it all the way, and then someday maybe never do this. Maybe just always fly vintage stuff, but maybe someday you're going to get into like a normal modern Cessna and you're going to be like, "What? This is so easy." You're going to be such a good pilot.
So many instruments. Oh my God. Thank you. I will keep you posted.
No, you should keep us. You should, just plain silly. Is it map up or map down? Map instead of track up? Or...
Map tied to your leg, because airmail pilots couldn't have their maps out, and so they would tie them to their legs so they could look down.
Thus, we have kneeboards now. Thanks, airmail pilots. Before I wrap up, where should people go to check out more about the Kelch Museum and your stuff? Where should we send them to learn more?
Okay, come to our Facebook page and interact with us and see our updates. It's very exciting right now. Things are happening every day because we're opening. 2, our website is cool and there's a lot of information there, especially about our collection. And you can basically find anything about us there or a link to it. 3, if you have questions for me, obviously you can just put them in the chat and they'll get to me somehow, but you can also email me, and my contact information is on our website. And I'm really excited about the grand opening, which is happening with a big party on the 23rd of July. It's a Friday, and the celebration lasts all weekend, and it's going to be really hot, but we're giving away free ice cream, amongst other things, and activities for kids, and everything cool. So come to that, or come visit us later. We have regular weekly hours, and we love to have pilots fly in. We love to have groups of pilots or car clubs. Anybody who's interested in this, like, we can do a super cool tour for you. We are not a museum without people who are visitors making us a museum. That was an awkward sentence.
No, we're tracking. I think what I'm going to do is my little like Sky Fam locally. We're always looking for fly out stuff, and I think what we'll do is once you guys are open, from Milwaukee to Brodhead is like not far.
Nope.
So we just bomb down there and check it out once you guys are open. I think that will be really, really fun.
Yeah. And I should mention that we are a free admission museum. We
What?
survive entirely on we survive entirely on donations. People have been so supportive and wonderful, and I would encourage you and beg you to consider making a donation if you visit, or if you don't. And another way to support us is you can buy cool t-shirts which have our steerman on our logo like this. We also have hats and other cool stuff in our shop, and be cool like us. It's a way of life.
No, this is so. All right, I'll have my people call your people, which is really, I'll send you a Facebook message. We'll get episode 2. We'll get episode 2 of this figured out, in the future.
Okay.
We gotta have you back. Everyone loved this so much.
I love being here. Thank you so much, Ryan.
And thank you for doing it. And I'm so happy. Our friend Qasim and I, our claim to fame was we were in a silent. It was a film class called Wisconsin Bioscope. And I directed it and had a guy literally cranking an old 35 millimeter camera with a metronome, and Qasim was acting in it. And the film, the film played in a film festival in Italy. So it's it was a real thing. It's like a film festival for silent films in Italy. They played this film that Qasim was in and I directed, but it was written by our film professor, and it was called Daddy Don't.
I'd like to see this, please.
I'll find it for you. Zach Sherman in the chat, he'll find it. He's like modern day Napster or whatever. But it's literally about a guy. It's very sad. It's this a guy who's thinking about killing himself, and a kid goes, "Daddy, don't!" and then he doesn't, and that was Qasim. It was good. So anyway.
Oh my god! Well, that sounds like my kind of movie, and also that you made a silent film with actual film is a dream of mine. So we really are best friends. I will be talking.
We developed
to you
it by hand. We had to develop it. It was crazy. We'll talk about that later. It was ISO 6. All right, film nerd stuff. Everybody else, Ami and I are gonna go nerd out about film stuff. But everyone else, thank you again so much for watching. Wednesday nights are my favorite night of the week. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button on this. That helps me get guests like Ami. Otherwise, people like her go, I don't want to be in this show. No one watches it. So subscribe. 60% of you don't subscribe. You got to subscribe. That would help a lot. Share it, all that stuff. And then Patreon. This show is supported by all these amazing people on Patreon who we call them the SuperAero Squadron. We hang out every Wednesday night after the show on Zoom, a Zoom call. We talk smart about airplanes until the wee hours of the morning sometimes. Couldn't do it without all of you in the squadron who are in the chat. So anyway, thank you very much. As always, be sure to tune in next week. Eric Johnston, the aviation photographer, is going to be on. He's going to school us on taking pictures of stuff. And if nothing else, hopefully we'll see you guys up at Oshkosh. But before you go to Oshkosh, stop. Oh, I got to point in the right direction. You got to stop. Oh, I can't figure it out. Which way do I point?
Go
this
up.
way. There we go.
Up, and then travel.
Well, I was going to say go to the Kelch Aviation Museum on your way to Oshkosh this year. Check them out. So cool. It's worth the trip. And I haven't even been to the museum, but Brodhead alone is worth the trip. Add all that cool stuff that Ami's and her friends and family are doing there. Okay, I think I got it all. Did I cover it all? Any closing thoughts before we sign off?
No, I'm so excited. It's so excited. It's exciting to be, to have things be alive. These are not dead airplanes. This is not a dead subject. There are real people out there who care. So I'm very happy. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Dude, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. Everyone else, we will see you next week. Hello.